What is going on, family? How is everybody doing? I was here trying to find a little sound. So if you hear it, just know that I don't know. I don't know either. I couldn't find it. I don't know what it is either. You and me both in the same boat. And it's usually me, you're doing something wrong. It's like, oh, it's going to work my nerves. But we here regardless, and we have something we need to talk about. So listen, we have, and we're not going, like I said, I don't know what, the green won't come in. I tried to do an RBG green. It wouldn't come in either. It's just too much, right? So anyway, listen, we still have something that we absolutely have to talk about. And it just kept going, right? It with the stuff we was trying to, like, when you're trying to talk about one thing and it just keeps going. And so there was a Cameron, for those of you who haven't seen, and I'm not going to go over everything again, but there was a Cameron said, listen, I consider myself black. That don't really work in terms, and not African-American. That don't really work either in terms of what you're trying to do, but I understand what you're trying to say, but no, it don't really work. So, it's not defining enough. But he said, we're not African-American. They don't even consider us African like that. And he's right. Like, there's nothing there's no lie in that. Right? They don't, and you shouldn't get offended by somebody not considering you that. But that's what, let me just not get ahead of myself, ladies and gentlemen. Right? That is what he said in response, right? In response to what Cameron said, Marc Lamont Hill thought it was okay to come and tell him, well, I consider myself black too, but then talk about how we have a connection with the continent and repeat talking points that we have heard for quite some time. We have heard those talking points. We have disputed those talking points and shown that they make absolutely zero. They make no sense. But Marc Lamont Hill still chose to recite those talking points. Once again, he chose to recite those talking points, even though those talking points are disputed, right? So let me just go through a little bit of what happened, just so everybody understands, because this is just, let me just say this. Let me say this before I get into it. I'm not going through all of this with y'all in 2024. Y'all have Pan-Africanists. Look at me. Look at my face. Look at my face. I want you to look at my face. You might not like my face. That's fine. Look at my face. Look at my face. You lost. I'm sorry. You lost. And the reason you lost is because what you were doing never made sense. You lost. And what's going on now is that a lot of you all are just saying this stuff just to be saying this stuff. And you need to stop saying this stuff. But you lost. It is over for what you were trying to do. The world has moved on. They have adopted different language. American descendants of slavery is the norm in terms of what people are using. But you lost. I'm sorry, and you got to just let this go, because you can't dispute what we're talking about anymore. Now, I want to go to something too, because you can't say, one of the things that you can't say when we talk about, what they're saying is that we don't have a right, and you have to understand how dangerous it is what Marc Lamont Hill is saying. Because what he's saying is that we don't have a right to be who we are. We don't have a right to claim our identity. We're just black. And he says, if you go and look at his video, right? It's up on YouTube. He says, the reason I'm saying this, he said, I use black. Hear me when I say this, ladies and gentlemen. He says, I use black because I don't want to exclude my Caribbean and African brothers. So I use black too, so I can be inclusive. But I want to show you something. Let me just bring this up a little bit bigger, just so everybody can see, right? Now, I want you to pay close attention to what this is, right? Just you ain't gotta, just pay close attention to what you're looking at, right? Now, the first ever Caribbean Music Awards. Now, nobody said, I'm just going to be called black because I don't want to exclude my American brothers and sisters. And really and truthfully, they don't need to say that. I accept your right. I accept your ability to identify yourself as Caribbean, whether you identify yourself as Jamaican or whatever. That is your right. The first ever Caribbean Music Awards were held in Brooklyn on Thursday. The party started on the red carpet. Grammy Award winner and host Wyclef Jean and his dancers set the stage at King's Theater in Flatbush. It's a big movement. Let me move this up a little bit. This is the first time that the Caribbean has decided to embrace each other. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Understand something. Don't race past this. Was this divisive? Do you consider this divisive that they have identified themselves based on their lineage and who they are? Is that divisive, or is that pride in who they are? And it's a distinction, and distinctions are real. Distinctions do not need your approval. It's like gravity. It's like everything else. It's like what Einstein did. It's like the theory of relativity. It does not need your approval. It is what it is. Each group has a different contribution, a different experience, and a different contribution to America, a different kind of oppression, and we are not defined by melanin. So I am really tired of people. Listen, I've been Marc Lamont has had me on his show. I have explained this to him, right? And he has not offered a lot of pushback. So I'm trying to understand why, if it is okay for Caribbeans to claim their Caribbeanness and not say, I'm black. I know they have a whole thing to celebrate themselves. Why is it a problem? Why do you have to come on and say, I love you, brother, but I just got to tell you about yourself. And you know, I got love for you, but I'm going to tell you that this ain't right and you don't have to divide us. Here's a second problem that I dealt with 5 years ago, 6 years ago. We got to stop this regressive stuff. We got to stop this remedial learning. Academics and intellectuals should not be in remedial learning classes. We got to stop that. Well, when a white cop stops you, they don't ask what boat you got off. Listen, the dumbest thing you can do in this world is define yourself by your oppressor, or define yourself by a racist, or define yourself by a white cop. I do not care what a white cop sees. If a white cop looks at a Mexican and he's dark enough, he might assume the Mexican is a Negro. He don't know. He might assume that an Indian is a Negro. He might see melanin. The guy. I didn't know what he was. A white cop or a racist cop might assume all sorts of things. That's not how I define myself. So you do not define yourself through the lens of somebody else. That is the dumbest thing in the world you can do. The one thing that you are in charge of is how you define yourself, your self-definition. And that should not come from someone because they have a badge. You define yourself. Another thing Marc said was, well, you don't go anywhere and hear Asians talk like this, or hear nobody comes here and says I'm French American. They say I'm French in the same way that I'm African. First of all, if you talk to somebody whose ancestors came from France, depending on how long ago they came, they're just going to say I'm American. They're not even going to have anything they're not going to define about anything else other than American. After about 2 generations, people lose their immigrantness. Right? They start to kind of shake it off. They start to kind of become fully assimilated and integrated. So they don't even define themselves by that anymore. Right? So why in the world are we 400 plus years in, and you still want us to define ourselves by a continent with 54 countries that that is not even connected within itself? This stuff has to stop. At some point, you got to realize that you lost the game, you lost the plot, you lost the movement. It is over. Let's move forward. Now, I'm not saying you can't have no kind of affinity for nobody. I'm not saying nothing like that. I'm not saying you can't. I'm not saying that. I want you to read what the Caribbean said about themselves. They said this is a movement. The Caribbean deserves it. We deserve it. They didn't say you deserve it. They didn't say ADOS deserve it. They didn't say Black Americans deserve it. They did not say that. They did not say Native Black Americans. They said the Caribbean. They were very specific. And nobody came in and said, why would you say that? Why would you say the Caribbean? That is so divisive for you to identify and define yourself. Why would you do it? How could you do it to us? Please explain how you could do this to us. How could you say the Caribbean? How could you? Oh, you're so divisive. You just hate Black America. Nobody comes in and says that when other people self-identify. So you don't need to, if Cameron wants to come in here and say that he is whatever he wants to say he is, I think if you are an American descendant of slavery, the institution, you are ADOS. That's what it is. And that is the language that's being picked up by newspapers and everything. Everybody just needs to get on board and stop playing games. But he's right. He says Africans don't see us as Africans and Caribbeans don't see us as Caribbeans, and they're right. We are American. Now, we have to distinguish ourselves from other Americans because we made a particular contribution. We have a particular culture and attributes that apply only to us. So I absolutely agree that we have to define ourselves. But they define just the same way everybody defines themselves. Nobody rushes into a room and says, why would you say that? What are you doing? Why would you do that? Who told you? Oh, you ought to be ashamed. Nobody Nobody does that. So stop rushing into our rooms and saying that kind of stuff, and stop saying we African, and that's what we African. So wait a minute, let me get this straight. Let me slow this down for a second. I want to make sure I understand, because what I'm trying to do and what I've been trying to do for the remedial learners out there since about, oh my goodness, 2018 in earnest to 2024. We have been saying that we started off with American DOS, then it became ADOS. And we have been saying this is our identity, this is our lineage, this is our ethnicity, this is who we are. And everybody says you don't get to do that. You don't get to define yourself. Hold on. The continent of Africa gets to have 3,000 ethnicities, and I can't have one. Wait a minute. They can have all kinds of tribes, divisive, fight in the street. But you want me my people can't have one. We have something that is more distinct than anything that they have. They have different tribes in the same country. In the same country fighting each other. In the same country oppressing each other. And I don't even want to oppress nobody. As ADOS, we have not done that. We have not been oppressing nobody. That's not what we do. That's not what we stand for. We have not oppressed anybody. As a matter of fact, whether it's South Africa, whether it's Botham Jean, when somebody says I was abused by the police, we say, oh my God, that's wrong, and we get out in the street for you. We have not tried to oppress you. We have said that we built the country and we are deserving of reparations, right? We said that. And then we said that we are a specific group, because you have to carve out that group and to say who is deserving reparations. Well, the people who go back to slavery, built the country, Jim Crow, then Reconstruction. That's who we are. And everybody keeps saying no. They can have 3,000 ethnicities, which to me don't make no sense. And you want to talk to me about having some type of collectivism with Africa, and they can't get themselves together. We are in a whole different continent, ma'am, sir. We are all the way over here in the West. We have a whole different experience in a majority white country. We have a whole different thing going on, and y'all want to talk to me. People still want to make this argument that we gotta combine around Africa. Who told you that? I'm supposed to allow a racist cop to somehow anchor my identity. He's supposed to be in charge. Well, the cop, when I tell you what to see when the cop look at you, I don't care what the cop see when the cop look at me. When you don't get a job or a house, well, listen, obviously we need to talk more about outcomes. So you talk about, well, when you don't get a job or a house because it's black, then we are all black the same. No. That's a lie. Academics got to start academicing, because I'm tired. Academics got to start academicing, because I'm not going to keep doing this thing where you just get outside, because Pan-Africanism is an ideology that's more like a religion or even a cult than it is any kind of political thing. People can have 1,000 books in their house and still say stuff that don't make no sense. We are not the same kind of black. What does that mean? Right? When you can't get a house, listen, let me tell you something. There are two kinds of disadvantage, and this is Yvette Carnell's language. So anytime you hear somebody say it, that's not me, they picked it up off me, tell them to give them credit. There is inherited disadvantage, and there is lived disadvantage. So if you come to this country as a black immigrant, you might look like us, and maybe some of that disadvantage rubs off on you. But we have an inherited disadvantage that comes all the way from slavery, and it's baked in, and it's always been that way. But even in that, there is evidence to show that white people prefer black immigrants to ADOS. So all this, with a white man, well, no, that's not it. So this, and I included this in my OMB, I included this. Right? The blacks who got their 40 acres, a theory of black West Indian migrant asset acquisition. Wait a minute, Yvette. Even immigrants see themselves as different. Even immigrants understand themselves as different. You hear preaching to us that we're the same. Yes, there are differences. Somebody really got the American dream. There are black people here. Hey, let me whisper. There are black people here who really got the American dream. But guess what? It ain't us. So let me just read something to you really quickly. Like I said, we're not going. So this is part of the study. It says recent studies indicate that over 50% of New York's black businesses have historically been owned by West Indians. even though West Indians constituted less than 1/3 of the city's black population. West Indian Americans are disproportionately represented on the list of black millionaires. West Indian entrepreneurs in inner city communities have attracted far less media attention than their Korean and Jewish counterparts and have largely escaped economic boycotts, perhaps in part because most West Indian migrants are themselves black. Despite this lower external profile, West Indian market dominance has been a source of resentment in African American community for some time. For example, Jamaicans in Harlem were controversially dubbed Jamaicans. And in the 1930s, there was a common joke. I ain't gonna put the joke, but your ancestors understood that they had an advantage that we didn't have. And there's a reason. We're gonna get into the reason for that disadvantage. And they viewed them in terms that they called them that disparaging name. I didn't do it. That was your ancestors who had that name for them because of the money, the wealth, and what they had, and so they called them that. That's not me. This is something when you look at a group that's been here far less time, that came here with more, while you have less, right? And that's what they said. This is a part of the study. Let me keep going. Like I said, we ain't got to be here all day. Indeed, recent analysis shows that median West Indian net worth is remarkably similar to that of all Americans. So we all black the same. But West Indian net worth is remarkably similar to that of all other Americans. So how are you owning, when you look at the wealth of ADOS or the wealthlessness of ADOS, how are you telling me that you are like me when your wealth is similarly situated to the rest of America? That's why I keep saying the only people who should be able to claim disadvantage are ADOS. What differentiates this subset of black people? Why has their experience of asset acquisition been so different from that of other black Americans? I address these questions by looking closely at the lives and experiences of a particular subset of early West Indian migrants who entered the United States in the late 19th century and early 20th centuries, the blacks who got their 40 acres. The blacks who got their 40 acres were not the blacks who were promised their 40 acres. So stop playing. Everybody want to play games. Nobody experiences the same blackness. That's not something that happens. Nobody has the same experience who comes here as an immigrant as ADOS, because you wanted to come here and you had the resources to come here. When we read even about Indian Americans who came here, there is selective migration on both ends. They are selected in America for a very specific reason, and they are able to leave India for a very specific reason. That is the case with all immigrants. So anybody who says I started from the bottom just like you, I don't care where they come from, they are lying. That's not how it works. So let's read this quote here. In the public vocabulary, the blacks who got their 40 acres refers to descendants of persons enslaved in the United States who were able to overcome legal bars to property ownership shortly after emancipation and who are disproportionately likely to own property today. Despite popular perception, however, the most successful subset of blacks today are not descendants of slaves, but instead descendants of free black migrants whose ancestors were enslaved outside the United States. So listen, those are the most successful. The migrants are the most successful. And it's not because of the reasons Clarence Thomas told you. It's not because they were, or Thomas Sowell. It's not because they came here and just worked harder. They came here with more and they were selected by and favored by white folk. That just is what it is. And everybody got to stop saying stupid stuff. Everybody got to stop saying, well, you know, we is all, and we the same, and we just got to fight together. No, if you are similarly situated with other groups in terms of your net worth, if you got your 40 acres, right? If you are disproportionately the people who own property, you got more wealth than us, and we've been here 400 years. No, we are not the same. What is everybody still talking about? We have explained this 1,000 times, why we are not the same. And people insist on misunderstanding everything we're saying. It is tiresome. And Mark, you're too smart to be this dumb. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I believe everybody's playing a game now because that's how you get in the rooms. That's how you get in the rooms. People don't let Yvette in the room. But if you say, yeah, we all black and we got to fight together. We all the same. If the police look at me and we got off on the same boat, we didn't get off. No, it wasn't no same boat. It was just my boat just landed somewhere else. You landed with a bunch of money. You landed with a sack of money. Like, let me just go to the next one. Properly accounting for successful West Indian blacks paints a more inclusive, accurate picture of wealthy black Americans. Colin Powell, whose family included J. Bruce Lewin, a black beverage distributor in the United States and a multimillionaire who was the largest black telecommunications entrepreneur, epitomizes this group. Colin Powell. And everybody's like, ooh, we got us a first black right there. We got us a what he was he the first? Wasn't he the first? He was the first Joint Chiefs and the first secretary. Oh, we got us a black in a high place. We got a black in high place. Can you believe? You be somewhere ready to cry. Can you believe I never thought I'd see a black do that kind of thing. Well, he ain't your black. He came descended from millionaires. You came descended from slaves and sharecroppers. It's not the same, Mark. We got to keep ourselves together. It's just different boats and different ports. No, it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a lot more nuanced than that. But since people want to hide from studies and books and stuff, you can just say anything. Just wait for another to call you. Yeah, bro. That's right, bruv. Come on. The group also includes ancestors of Eric Holder and Susan Rice, whose parents and grandparents became property owners after migrating to the United States from the Caribbean. Upon their arrival in the United States, each of these families began what appears to have been a speedy ascent up the property ladder. Now listen, some of y'all still have parents who are renters. We know it. We all have it, right? People still don't own property. Got foreclosed on. They got here and immediately became property owners. And you want to tell me something about sameness? People crazy. People either think listen, you either a fool or you think I'm a fool. I don't know which one it is with these people no more. I really don't. I got to tell you. In part 3, I explained that by the time of emancipation, many West Indian slaves were not merely property owners, but also full-fledged market participants, particularly in food markets. Thus, many slaves were already contractors in waiting. This market security had two effects. The newly freed slaves were enthusiastic participants in formal land markets and developed an entrepreneurial realtor class. They ain't talking about your slaves. Employing and contracting experience these individuals had cultivated during slavery to broker land deals between plantation owners and newly freed slaves. You got to make the comparisons. Right? Despite this conjecture about which West Indians were able to successfully migrate to the United States, there is virtually no data on how, and this is why this person is writing the study. Like, there's no data on, like, because people, it's part of the con. No data on how West Indian migrants accessed the resources necessary for migration. Relying on census reports and informal data from colonial authorities, historians have pieced together details of the occupation and place of origin of migrants, but they have recovered little detail on the financing of migration. Although the colonial authorities had rudimentary data on numbers of migrants leaving the islands, they had no data on the source of the funds used for passage. In the absence of this quantitative data, I rely on ethnographic studies of both early West Indian migrants in the United States and West Indians who remained on the islands but maintained close ties with relatives in the United States. I also look to circumstantial evidence, including high levels of turnover in the West Indian property markets, which appear to correlate with high levels of migration. People are financing their migration here. That's what he's telling you. The ethnographic research confirms the links to which migrants went to obtain resources to finance their passage to the United States. Not only were funds necessary to pay for transportation, but such resources were paramount to helping migrants demonstrate to skeptical U.S. consular and immigration officials upon arrival themselves empowered to deny entry to poor migrants who were at risk of becoming state charges that they were sufficiently resourced. For example, the historian ethnographer Irma Watkins Owens recounts narratives of property sales to finance migration in her early interviews with West Indian migrants. So they are selling property. Let me break this down for a second. They are selling property to come here. That means they have property to sell. Mind you. Mind you. Just go back and look at how long we were sharecropping. Go back and look at the red summer. We were still being lynched. Nobody had property to sell to come here. Like, we don't have property to sell to be here. We have nothing. And they're selling stuff to come here. And people want to tell you, well, the only difference is whether you came on a boat last week or you came on a boat right here or you came on a boat right here. No, it's far more of a nuanced argument to me. And I want to know why people are able to make a very nuanced argument. And I think when you speak about the conflict in the Middle East, you should make a nuanced argument. But why is everybody able to make nuanced arguments about people in other countries? But when it comes to us, everything is just melanin and kinky hair. Nah. Our story is nuanced too. Our history in this country is nuanced too. Our struggle is nuanced too. Our oppression and contribution is nuanced too. Don't give your nuance just to other people, but you can't have a nuanced conversation with us. Everything with us is blackety, 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 black. We all blackety black. We African. We all African. We experience the same blackness. About getting a job and not getting a job. About what the white man see when he look at you. We don't have the same outcomes. We don't have the same history. And you don't hear, let me say something. You don't hear a Chinese American say, and Filipinos say, we both Asian, we Asian the same. Nobody says that. Like, they're trying to just aggregate. Like, Asians are like, this just being Asian don't even reflect me. But you don't hear nobody saying, if a person who is Filipino say, I'm Filipino, you don't hear a Chinese person, why would you say that? We're all Asian. You don't hear that. Even during the, remember when I interviewed, I can't remember his name. Johnson Touch was his name? From the Japanese reparations. And he was saying that the Chinese were opposed to it. They didn't get along. And there was no, I said, well, oh my gosh. Are you telling me that there was no push for pan-ethnicity? That there was no push for somebody saying, well, y'all should just be it together. Y'all both Asian. This kind of stupid stuff only happens to us, and it happens to our detriment. But let me finish this part about property, because it's important. Many migrants describe the sale of family ground, denoting ownership by the entire family. There is also evidence that money originally intended to purchase family ground was used to travel instead. In fact, it was through such a financing scheme that Paul Marshall's own mother came to New York from Barbados. Others appeared to have secured financing for their migration by borrowing against land held in the West Indies. Again, what did your family ever had to borrow against? Like I said, we don't have to be here a long time. But we gotta have a conversation a long time or a short time. We still gotta have a conversation. To accomplish this goal, plantation owners allocated provision grounds in individual plots of land at the edge of plantation to slave heads of household to grow their own food. The incentives were clear. Those who did not farm their provision grounds successfully would not eat. Soon, further innovation to incentivize food production appeared. By the early 18th century, owners decreed that the proceeds of slave provision grounds would accrue entirely to the slaves on several plantations. Okay, would accrue entirely to slaves on several plantations. We didn't accrue that. We didn't get land that came to us on the plantation. That's a difference. We all came, same boat, same. That's stupid. This is a real difference. The English administration in Jamaica quickly caught on to the practice. In 1672, only 17 years after the English takeover of Jamaica, an early English governor issued a decree with the force of formal law. Any plantation owner who acquired a new plantation was obliged to allocate individual plots of land to slaves so that the slaves could feed themselves and their families. Moreover, the institutionalization of the system was undoubtedly aided by financial incentives for self-sufficiency in food production. Now, I want to say also something else. this is not just something that is just us. It is not, like I said before, it is not a situation where we're the only ones trying to self-identify. And what Marc Lamont Hill and others are doing, they're erasing us. They're saying we don't get to identify however we identify. So if you want to identify as whatever, you don't get to do that. Cameron doesn't get to do that. He doesn't get to say, listen, I'm not African. You got to be African. When's the last time you hear a white person say, how do you identify? I'm European American. Like, even people who are here from Africa, I believe they should identify as like Ghanaian American and Nigerian American or whatever, Kenyan American. I don't think you should identify by continent. This doesn't make no sense. It's too many. That's 54 countries. Don't make no sense. Everybody should identify. And by not doing that, people who have a lot of people here claim stuff. Like you'll see Joy Reid say, I have a right to some things in this country because black immigrants made a contribution. Well, you're Congolese. So you have to point to the Congolese Americans in this community who made a contribution. Don't point to anybody else. Right? That's a whole nother story. But I think I'm right now trying to disaggregate ADOS from everybody else. But I honestly think black immigrants need to disaggregate because there are a lot of people kind of catching on to something there's a large black immigrant population and a real small group catches on to it. And it's kind of like, wait a minute, no, I ain't talking about just you. We ain't talking about the whole continent. You can't where are you from? Got 85 people. But it's just, look, it's not just us, right? So you have black immigrants who are doing things just for themselves. So black immigrants have been left out of policy decisions for too long, organizers say, right? So they're saying, hey, we're not the same as just black people. We are black immigrants and we have our own struggles. But when I say, hey, we are ADOS and we have our own struggles that go back 400 years, oh my gosh. Oh, well, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Oh, it doesn't, Yvette, you're just being divisive. I don't even understand it. I don't even understand what you're saying. And it really is just erasure. And so you wonder why, you wonder why, and I just want to come here really quickly. So when so you wonder why this happens, right? So, and this, I just took a clip from, this was from my OMB. So I took a clip from here. And it's amazing, right? When you look at your first blacks, right? First black Secretary of State, Colin Powell, Jamaican American. First black Vice President, Kamala Harris, Jamaican and Indian. Eric Holder, Caribbean. First woman president of the law review, Harvard Law Review. Nigerian. Roxane Gay, Haitian, but she's not. I mean, not Roxanne. What's her name? Claudine, or whatever. First black editor-in-chief of Harper's, Lebanese Trinidadian, first black woman to lead Harvard Crimson, Chinese Haitian, first black woman to have her own primetime show, that's Congolese, Guyanese, first black president of Harvard, Haitian, But so what I'm saying is this, fam. You wonder why none of the first black is supposed to show that, oh my God, ADOS are moving. They're supposed to show, it's supposed to be something that shows and proves our ascension as opposed to what it's doing now. And it's showing, only thing it's doing now is showing our, it's covering our failure. It's masking our failure. It's supposed to be, the first black is supposed to be like, oh my God, look at what ADOS are doing. It's supposed to demonstrate that we are moving up. Instead, you have a whole list of people that are not us. And they're not us because we have decided that we don't matter. We have decided that we don't count. We have decided that we can't even name ourselves. We have decided that we can't even decide who we are. So guess what? Everybody gets to be us, and we get to be like just kind of like stuff, just kind of like the backdrop. We are the backdrop, right? We are the doormat through other people into this country, and we are the backdrop through which people are understood. That's what we are. So you get to be the thing that makes everybody else's life purposeful because you won't put yourself first, because you won't put yourself in front, because you won't say, this is who I am and this is what I stand for. As long as you won't do that, you're going to have a problem. And as long as you won't stand up against people who have decided that they're not going to do that, you're going to have a problem. All of these first, none of them are us. None of them. None of them. Because you don't want to count yourself. As long as you say, well, I ain't nothing. I'm not even a person. I'm just like gravity. I just exist to make your life better. I have said this before and I will say it again. I have said it before and I'll say it again. We're a harvest group. That's what we are. That's what I call it all the time. We are something that everybody else harvests, right? So that they can grow something that they can eat. But we are the dirt. So everybody can put a seed in there and get something beautiful up out of it. Right? Oh, that's nice soil. Just put a seed in that 8-ounce soil. It's nice. Something wonderful gonna come up out of it. You watch. It's gonna be sweet and juicy and tasty. But you're never something yourself. We have decided that we don't matter. You don't listen. How can you matter and you don't even name yourself? Isn't the first thing you do when you have a child is name it? When you get a pet, you name it. You get a little dog. That's Rover. You see my dog. His name is Rover. So you see, we call our dogs all kind of stuff, right? You see my dog. You come here, look at my dog. She's so cute. Her name Jelly Bean. You see Jelly Bean. Jelly Bean, roll over, Jelly Bean. I thought of some tricks. Watch it, Jelly Bean. You can't even name yourself. You can't even divorce yourself from a continent that you've been away from for 400 years. You can't. People lose that stuff. Listen, a black immigrant will come here tomorrow from Ghana and you'll ask them where they from, and they'll say, I'm from New York City. They got here like that. I'm from New York. Behold the American flag about to cry. I always wanted to come here. Oh my God. Oh. You don't say, oh my God, imperialism. You ought to be ashamed of yourself for wanting to come in this imperialist country and take it there. And we say, no, I'm ADOS. I'm not the same as everyone else, and I'm not African. We've been gone a long time, right? Like we are an amalgamation of a bunch of Americans in this country. There was rape, and then there was some intermixing. There was some Irish. We know the Irish did some awful stuff, but there was some Irish in Chicago, like who when they first came here, they ascended, but when they first came here, they worked as, what do you call those people? They worked as maids and butlers, and we was working as maids and butlers, and they had babies. A whole bunch of stuff happened, right? So we are an amalgamation. We are a unique thing in America, and you are so insecure that you refuse to name yourself. So when we give it a name and say you are ADOS, that's who we are. We are American descendants of slavery, the institution. No, we're not a slave. I don't want to be called no slave. No, the institution, because of the impact it's had on us, right? And because of what we lived through, and because of what we persevered. That's what we did. We should be proud of our perseverance. We should be ashamed of people who did it. But that's who we are. Oh well, I don't want to make Africa mad. We all got to be the same. I don't know. What? We can't. Are we allowed to name ourselves? I don't even know. Is that in the Negro? Is that in the Pan-African Handbook? Can I rename myself? Whoa, go with Garvey say. Child, he was a 2-bit hustler. I said it. Whoa. What Yvette, you know Du Bois died in Ghana. I do not care. I think Du Bois made a wonderful contribution. He helped get Garvey out here. No, but I think sociology, everything. I think he made a great contribution. But he lived in a different era. That's not going. I don't know how y'all show up in the comments all the time. Well, Yvette, did you know MLK was a fan of Garvey? And then you sit back like you done did something to me. So you better get yourself together. You better stay on track. Let me go. Let me finish up here. I just be acting up, I tell you. And we have, everywhere you go, they're saying the same things. ADOS, listen, that's why I say y'all have lost. ADOS kicked over the hornet's nest. There's nothing anybody can do about it. I know everybody wants to do something to do about it. Nobody, listen, the cat is out of the bag. There's nothing nobody can do. I'm sorry. Not really. But if it makes you feel better, I'm sorry that the cat is out of the bag, and ain't nobody really going back to that except for some of you knuckleheads. That everybody know that you're not Ghanaian, You're not Nigerian. You're not South African. Everybody know you ain't. And I don't know what part of yourself that you need that to make yourself feel secure on the inside, given the contribution that we have made in this country. But you're gonna have to have some kind of therapy, or you're gonna have to talk to somebody, because even at Ivy Leagues, they understand the difference. A debate brews among Black Ivy League students over representation on campus. African American students, and in this article, we're using African American to specify to denote descendants of enslaved people at Ivy League schools, are concerned about a more nuanced shift. Admissions officers may be missing or ignoring the difference between descendants of enslaved people whose families have faced centuries of educational and economic racial disparities, and Black immigrant families who still face racism but are likely to be less tied to generational economic hurdles that can make elite education unattainable. Some students have formed groups for what they call multi-generational African American. Hey, that multi-generational African American is not going to work either, because the longer Black immigrants are here, they become multi-generational as well. You have to tie yourself back to slavery. I know y'all gotta get over that mental hiccup, because it's an institution, and it's tying us to slavery. The institution is also what ties us to reparations, the payment. Sorry. Still face multi-generational African Americans in an attempt to take up space and be counted on elite campuses where Black students overall are underrepresented, regardless of where their parents were born. Charles co-wrote a 2007 study that disaggregated the ancestral breakdown of Black students at highly selective universities. The researchers found that 41% of Black students of 4 Ivy League colleges surveyed were children of 41% of Black students at 4 Ivy League colleges surveyed were children of foreign-born parents, hailing primarily from sub-Saharan African and Caribbean nations. And I wonder how many of the other ones were biracials with a white parent, and they were tied to that white parent's wealth. These first and second generation Black Americans were overrepresented in the Ivy League, given that at the time they made up 13% of the population. First and second generation Black immigrants have been overrepresented on selective college campuses, and that trend has continued. Now, shout out to Non-Human Media, who always gives the data. And there's a reason for a lot of these trends. And you can look up this study if you want to. But what we're seeing when I talk about who is favored, the current study demonstrates, this is this study right here, preferences for second generation African immigrants over native born Black Americans. The current study demonstrated a preference for second generation African immigrants over Black American natives. The Black American applicant had a worse chance of being admitted when his competitor was a second generation African immigrant. So Marc Lamont Hill is basically telling you we don't exist really as a group. Like, we don't exist as ADOS. We're all Black and we all have to tie ourselves to Africa. We got to anchor ourselves in Africa when nobody else is doing that. Black immigrants aren't doing that. African immigrants aren't doing that. Caribbean people aren't doing that. White people aren't doing that. They're favoring them to us. Right? They're favoring Black immigrants to ADOS. The only people who are doing that and who are mandating that we do it, even as we lose, are our own people. There is a need. There is a psychological need that people have that they have to deal with. They have a psychological need to be African. And there is something about it I do not know. I do not understand it. Even as we understand the penalties, the differences, very real differences. According to a study from the National Bureau for Economic Research, there is a 100-year penalty for being Black American, and that between 1880 and 2010, whites showed much higher rates of upward mobility than Blacks, even if their parents started from the same economic position. Now, we will, from 1880, who was here in 1880? The penalty is specific to the portion of the Black population whose families have been in this country long enough to incur the fullness of the social handicaps and economic disadvantages that define and accompany the 100-year penalty. But if you don't want to count and you say we all the same, you can never really understand how much we have been damaged. You can never really understand how much we're fastened to the bottom until you understand that we are distinct and different from every other group. If you don't understand that, you will never understand our suffering. And if you want to understand our suffering, if you don't understand our suffering and our oppression, you will never fix it. If you are too much of a coward to go into a room full of whoever and say, I am different from you, I'm not saying better, I'm not saying worse. We made a bigger and better contribution in this country than anybody else. We suffer more than anybody else. But I'm not saying anything about you. I'm not saying anything detrimental to you. I am saying I am different, and my suffering is more. It's more vast. It lasted longer, right? It lasted 400 years. It's still going on, and you do not get to access what was set aside for me. If you cannot say that, and if you can't say it, we can't measure it, because you can't fix nothing if you can't measure it. If you wanna make a cake, I need this much flour. What a cup? Okay, what a 1/4 cup? What a teaspoon? I need a teaspoon of baking powder. You gotta measure it. If you can't measure it, you can't fix it. And if you are so invested in Africa that you can't look at yourself and say, listen, no matter how I may feel, no matter what kind of affection I may have for Africa or oppressed people around the world, I am different. I am ADOS. If you cannot say that with your whole chest, you can never fix what's wrong with us. And I'll say it again. If you cannot say it, your ancestors should be ashamed of you because they knew it. And if you can't say it, you can walk around all day with all kind of dashikis. You can walk around all day with all kind of little T-shirts with little sayings on them that make you feel smart and revolutionary. You can do that all day. But if you cannot define yourself, if you cannot put a name on us, if you cannot say we are distinct from everybody, and if you can't use that and measure that to fight the fight that needs to be fought, I have to ask myself what good you are to the community. This is some stuff I just have to say because I don't understand it. I don't. Let me go to, I'm almost done. This is another, we read this book for the book club. Todd G. Hamilton wrote a book about Black immigrants. If you haven't read it, you should read it. But I just want to go to this part as the last part before I close up. So we talk here about scholars have suggested that labor market disparities between Black immigrants and Black Americans result from differential patterns of labor market discrimination. Finally, Black immigrants, like all other immigrants, are self-selected and thus differ systemically, right? Systematically from other individuals in their native countries. Those who immigrate often have better health and higher education levels than their peers who stay in the home country. For example, in 2014, 63% of Black Nigerian immigrants residing in the United States had at least a bachelor's degree, while only 7% of Nigerian population had earned a bachelor's degree. In the same year, among immigrants from Haiti, the country sending the second largest flow of Black immigrants to the United States at the time, the mean length of schooling was 12.27 years, while among individuals living in Haiti, it was 5.18. To varying degrees, this type of selection exists among Black immigrants from all major countries. The decision to migrate is also correlated with the hard-to-measure characteristics such as ambition, motivation, etc., wealth, and etc., etc. What they're telling you is that these people already, this is not just like give us your poor or whatever. These people are highly selected, right? They have more education. These countries aren't sending you typically. Not all the time. We're not talking about all the time. We're talking about what he just said. So this idea that there are differences. Look at the education of ADOS and look at the education of the people who come here. They talk about degrees in terms of this is different. You're not necessarily meeting you're not meeting the run-of-the-mill Nigerian that you would meet if you just went over there. No. Listen. All I can say, honestly, everybody got to stop acting like they're crazy. I mean, listen, it's too much. Everybody got to stop acting like they got some kind of, like something's wrong with them. Listen, I wish it were different. I wish there was another way to say that. I really wish there was. I really wish there was, but I don't think there is. Listen, stop being crazy. Cameron can define himself. I believe we are all ADOS, and we have to define ourselves by that. Everybody has to get over that. And everybody has to stop thinking that because it's that way, and that, oh my gosh, like we are the only group that doesn't get to define ourselves. Do y'all know that we the only group that got attacked for putting our flag in our bios? People could put flag. People ain't been to their home country. I know people that had flags in their bios that they never visited the flag country. But that's my heritage. That's my lineage. You ain't never been there, and everything you have comes from America. And what ADOS did to get you there. But you got that up in your bio, right? Okay, I got you. So if we put our flag, oh my God, you're representing that country. You came here. I'm not repping the America that drops bombs. I'm repping the America that my ancestors built and struggled to be a part of. I'm repping that, and you don't get to judge me. Who are you? You came here. You call this country everything but a dog, but you came here and live. Your bio say Chicago. Your Twitter thing say Chicago. I can't believe you put the flag in your. I can't believe you came to the country that had the flag, and you decide you came over here voluntarily. I was born here. And you came here, and you still got your country's flag in the thing. I can't believe you want to rep that country. I can't believe you're such an imperialist. You came to a country that you came to this imperialist country. I'm not denying what it is. You came here voluntarily instead of fighting over there. You came here to judge me. Oh my goodness. It's wild. It's wild, fam. But listen, I'm gonna go to the break. I want to give you all a chance to, call in if you so choose. So give me a few minutes to set up the phones, and then I will be back. But listen, we gotta do this has to stop. We can't. One thing that Negroes do all the time too is we want to fight over something 10 years. Ain't nobody arguing the stuff that makes sense for 10 more years or something just because you want to repeat talking points that somebody taught you in dashiki school. We can't do that. Listen, I used to believe the same stuff y'all believe when I was in my 20s. I went to Howard University. Howard told us that we were leadership for America and the global community. I believe the same dumb stuff and the same dumb stuff for a long time. So I started looking at data, and the stuff just didn't make sense. Then I started looking back at my life and the people I knew at Howard University, people who had their school fees, and we don't even call them school fees, tuition paid and stuff. And I looked at me and my student loans, and I looked and said, what's the difference between my story and their story, right? Then y'all know Antonio Moore started dropping data bombs, and we started looking at everything, and everything changed. That's just what it is. I'm not holding nobody accountable for what they did when they was young. I can't hold myself accountable. You grow and you learn. But a refusal to grow when you have access to the information makes you a problem. And everybody needs to shift. It's time to change. We're not going into 2024 talking about we all blackity, blackity, black. That is something that doesn't make sense in 2024. Everybody else is doing it. Don't nobody else do that stuff and just say, oh, I'm just black. No, they'll tell you. They might mark whatever they mark on the sheet. But if they first or second gen, especially if that's had come a long, long time ago, they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, my family comes from here. My family's there. My family's there. Our family's been here since 16, what? 400 years? And you going to say, well, go back Africa. Where? No, you at a certain time you're anchored. You don't run up to white folks and say, where your family from? And if they're first, second gen, or they might know their history, they might say, oh, my parents came during the potato famine, during the iron potato famine. They came during that time. And they might say, oh, my family goes all the way back to the revolution or whatever. They might know that, but they don't say I'm European because of it. They might say, oh, my people go back to Ireland or whatever. They don't walk around saying, I'm Irish. Give me an Irish whiskey. They might do it at the bar, have fun, but don't nobody walk around taking that stuff seriously. They don't even, and they talk about them bad over there in Ireland too. So it's just like, what are y'all doing? Don't nobody do this. It's stupid. Let it go. Leave this stuff. Marc, leave this stuff in 2023. Let it go. Leave Cameron alone. Whoever we're gonna get, he's supposed to leave this stuff. It's over. I'll be right back, y'all. Give me a few minutes. All right, fam. We are back. We are back. We are back. I'm going to bring in a couple calls, see if we got some calls in here, see what the people got to say, and then we can, I just want to make sure, I just got people in here because I just wanted to make sure I had the conversation because I'm tired. I don't want to this conversation should have stayed in this conversation should have been 2021 should have been maybe the last year, for this conversation. But anyway. I'm going now to I'm going to 917. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
What's good, Yvette?
Hey.
From the Bronx. I called in before. How's everything, sis?
It's been pretty good. I can't complain. We've been pretty good.
Oh, man. All right, so if I walk out my building, right on the corner store, Dominican spot, been in my hood forever. If I walk right up to the hill of that same block, right at the top of the corner, there's a Jamaican West Indian restaurant. If I go diagonally across from that corner, right across diagonally across the street, there's another West Indian restaurant. And the next to that is a Razor Express, which is a barbershop owned by West Indians. And then when you go directly across from there, there's another Caribbean bar. So I'm basically saying everything you said was on point tonight. And my whole thing is that when you bring these arguments to these people, just like how you said, with this, we're all the same, I've been outside of that lane, we're all the same for years now. But it hasn't been up until you and Antonio, started dropping the data facts and all of that, when I come back and I hit these people with that, then it's almost it's almost like a frog gets caught in their throat. So I've been living in the Bronx, basically my whole life, and the section that I'm in the Northeast is basically Little Kingston. If they wanted to call a spot in the Bronx, Little Italy, Manhattan, Little Chinatown, they got spots called Little Italy. So I say we can nickname it Little Kingston up here because I have a strip called White Plains Road. And it's nothing but Caribbean establishments up there, so forth and so on. However, the thing about it is, I've gone to school with most of these guys since first grade. But going to school, a lot of them were more advanced than us, even when we was in first and second grade. And this kid is already knowing the lessons that, be like, hold up, homeboy, you just got here with us. Like, oh, well, when I was home, we already did this, but when I got here, they said I got to go at it again. I'm like, yo, huh? So they had a crazy disadvantage of us, not even just off of that, on the money getting them over here, but just education-wise. If you ask anybody that calls in, if they remember that going to school in the 80s and the early 80s, the Caribbeans that used to be in school with us, they used to ace everything. And if you sat next to one of them and you had the privilege, you knew you was going to cheat off them because they're like, hey, homeboy, you know all this already? Like, this is my first year in first grade. This is my first year in second grade. This is my first year in third. How do you know this? But they were just more advanced. But I'm not going to take it too much of the time. Everything you were saying on point. Love you. And I still want to find out where are the Bronx chapters of ADOS because
we have a did you join? Are you a member?
I'm not really. I haven't signed up to be a member yet, but I've been watching you for years now. Even when you was back on, the other guys, show. That's when I latched on with you, and then
okay. Well, yeah. When you get a chance, sign up, and when you get a little extra cash, I understand you have to take your time and say your $20 bills, But when you get a little extra cash, sign up, and we'll hook you up. We'll hook you up with the New York. It's New York State. It's not just because we haven't. So, but we'll hook you up with the team and the liaison and everything. So, yeah, if y'all are there, if y'all are in New York, appreciate you, fam. Appreciate you. Just go to join. Appreciate you, fam. You have a good one. And thanks for calling in as always. You can just go, fam, to joinados.com. Like I said, too, I'm not gonna take many calls tonight or whatever. I just want to get a couple people. If you want to call, by all means, call in and I'll see if I can. But I'm just gonna do a couple calls. Like I said, we're not gonna be here. Because this for a lot of us, this is just kind of remedial stuff. So I'm gonna take the calls. I got a couple of more calls, but I'm just saying for a lot of us, we already know this. I just feel the need to have a conversation when this kind of thing comes up. It shouldn't be this way. Like 214, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Lillian.
Hey, Lillian.
I was calling in. Hi. I was calling in because I see a divide to rule game here, where black immigrants feel like they have the right to meddle and dictate right or wrong acts performed by us, ADOS. And I also wanted to make a point of the interruptive game, which CBC purpose from the very beginning was that they should meet our needs, black folks' needs, and for it to be workable. Now I see that the CBC is becoming more black immigrant, and also the Supreme Court Justice Brown is also a black immigrant with Harris and Obama. I see that this has probably been an erasure game or all along, was to divide and to rule. And that's it. I just wanted to make that quick comment.
Okay, I appreciate you. I don't know anything about Ketanji Brown Jackson background. So anybody, you can inform me. Anybody in the chat can inform me. I had no idea. I don't know anything. So I just want to make that clear. But I appreciate your call. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's just like you just can't define yourself. I have honestly never seen anything like this. Well, like when you say, "Hey, this is who we are. We've been in the country." Oh my God. Because you know why? Everybody benefits from the lack of definition. So everybody benefits from the fact that we are not defining ourselves, right? So if you define yourselves and you go get a specific thing, we're left over here. So what does that mean? Well, if you come over here and you have the same wealth or similar wealth to the rest of Americans, that's how you should be treated like the rest of Americans. You don't get access to a lot of disadvantaged stuff, right? Yes, you shouldn't get discriminated against. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that like the big stuff, like when you wrap yourself in our disadvantage, you get the same stuff that we get. No, you shouldn't get that when that's not your disadvantage. Those are not your numbers. That's the point I'm trying to make. I'm going now to 971. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind? Hey.
Hello?
Hey.
This Crystal in Portland.
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, Yvette, I joined this week.
Great.
And I joined ADOS.
Okay, I appreciate you.
And I appreciate that too. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I appreciate everything you do. And, I don't know those people you talk about. I just know ADOS. And I just wanted to hear myself say to my family and to myself that I am ADOS, American descendant of slavery, and I'm proud of that.
I am too, and we don't have any.
I'm proud of that.
We should be proud of it.
We got to keep moving forward. I heard a great comment tonight, and it just really stunned me. It said something. This one guy said, "Black buffers who block progress." That was deep, And I want a lot of my people to stop blocking our progress. Well, I just want to remind everybody this is an election year, so we're gonna have all kinds of craziness coming up.
Well, I tell you,
we need you. I need you, and I need
I agree with you. And what I need is for us not to stay stuck. And y'all, I put my disclaimer out there. I don't know Ketanji Brown Jackson's background. I didn't. That's something I have not researched. So she could be wrong. She could be right. I don't know about. But let me just say this. I think one of the things we need is not to be stuck. And what people can do if they keep making this counter argument is we can stay stuck in the conversation and lose sight of the movement and lose sight of what we're pushing for. So for me, I just don't want to be stuck. Like, I don't want to stay stuck. Now, listen, a lot of people don't mind staying stuck because you could get some followers and make a bunch of money on having debates all the time. That's just kind of not what I'm interested in. I want to win. I don't want to just listen, I love having political conversations, but in terms of what I want for my people, I want to win. I don't want to just be here debating people about stuff. Hey, let's have a debate after we get reparations. And I debate you all day long. But can we move to some,
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let you finish though, fam. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, you know, Yvette, I feel stuck. You hear me? But I'm stuck in our people. I'm stuck in my family and with helping myself and my family right now. I'm not stuck with the debates and all that. I'm real clear about who I am, and I know you are too. I'm just trying to figure out. I'm just doing all that reading right now. That you know, that y'all. That I started listening to you about 7 years ago. And shout out to my sister in Ghana. You know, who felt like she had to leave this country. But I feel stuck in my country. This is my country. I ain't going nowhere else. And I'm going to continue to help my people, my family. Because I'm putting my family first right now. But I am stuck here. I'm stuck, yeah. I know, I feel like I'm stuck. But I'm stuck with my head in a black book in my history.
Absolutely.
That's why I'm stuck at. I'm gonna stay stuck in my history. I'm not. You know, I did my DNA and all that stuff, yeah. But I'm American first, because, like you said, this is the only country I know, and my people built this country. Thank you, Yvette.
No, I appreciate you. I appreciate you.
Yeah. Look, I'm trying to fit what comes with that $65.
Where are you at? Well, understand that ain't nothing built quick.
That's what I came.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? What state?
I'm in Portland.
Oh Lord, child. Yeah, you're not gonna be on the early rollout list. I don't know. I don't know how many people got in Portland, but
that's okay. I'll roll myself, y'all.
Yeah, but hey, but what we charge you to do is try to get some more people like you. And if you can show us, hey, I got 5, I got 10. You know, I mean, you gotta have 100. Then we could put you on the list. You ain't gotta have 100 people. We ain't saying that. So, but we have different metric though for the chapters and who we're because we're rolling everything out chapter by chapter, right? And so we have a metric. So it would make sense for us to roll out, let's say, a chapter with a place where we got 2 members, as opposed to a place where we got 75, right? It's just or a place where we got 200, right? So it kind of depends too on like the kind of energy that we have in that area in terms of how quickly you roll out. Among other metrics, that's not the only metric we use. There's some other metric we use too. There's a whole, presidential calendar. There's a whole lot of stuff, but that's one of the metrics. So. But I appreciate
you. Thanks, Yvette.
Thank you.
I'm gonna keep listening to you and try to be more involved. But like I said, right now it's just me and my family, and
no, I appreciate it.
To do what I can.
I appreciate you joining.
I'm just hurting, y'all. I'm really hurt.
I know a lot of people are. And they don't understand.
I know a lot of and it's ADOS.
Yep, it's ADOS going through it.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's a lot of ADOS going through it.
I know it's everybody. Don't get me wrong. But they the system itself keep telling me, all I know is to focus on my own health and my family.
Got to.
But I'm supporting all my family right now.
Well, and you got to take a break sometimes. You got to take weekends off. You can't do it all the time. It'll break you. So I mean, you got to know where to put. You got to know when to put some of that stress down.
Go down for my family and for my people.
Yep, I understand.
But anyway,
I understand. Carry what you can. Put the rest down. I appreciate you. You have a good one, but I mean, just take care of yourself.
All right.
Thank you. If you supporting your family, that's all the more reason not to put yourself in a position to have a stroke or a heart attack. And you can't. Sometimes you can only do what you can do, fam. And you should. And that's the whole point of the movement, is that you can't do it individually. I hear so many people, and I appreciate what she's doing, right? And I'm sure her family appreciates it. But I just hear so many ADOS, man, who are like doing all this stuff for family, and their backs are breaking. And then I understand that a lot of people have great lives right now. There are a lot of people right now with absolutely wonderful lives in America. America is messed up for us. It ain't messed up for everybody. And it's just kind of like what we have to do to kind of improve her life and your life and everybody's life. What we have to do in terms of uplift, it takes us like as a group to do it. Like she can only make it so long supporting everybody before somebody else has got to come on and shoulder part of the burden, or she's gonna have a problem, right? Whether it's a physical problem or a psychological problem or an emotional problem, she's gonna have a problem. So, this is part of what we're doing too, is about coming together. Like we have to be a part of a community. It can't be this stuff. All that stuff people told you about, you got to get it out the mud and all, that's over with. We rise. I say it, and I keep saying it. I'll say it to the end. We rise together or we fall together. Ain't no other way to do it. I'm going to 347. 347. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind? What's going on, 347? Oh, 347 hung up. Let me go to oh, he go 347 again. What's the 347? What's going on? Hello? Hello? 347, are you there? Hello?
Let me go to
Child, I can't. Not right now. You gotta get it together. I'm going right now to 909. 909, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, Yvette, good evening. This is Dr. Soul Brother. How's everything?
So, brother, what's up with you?
Oh, I can't call it. You as usual, you are straight cooking. This thing, I think people need to understand something clearly. For some people who want to try to use the African identity is another example of what is it when you try to identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
What do I mean by that? In other words, let's say I'm walking around and I'm with a bunch of Latinos and, I'm trying to be what they call a cholo or something like that. Here I am, black male and all, and I'm like, oh man, this dude, he got an identity. He's trying to be something he's not. Mm-hmm. Well, even though we are of African descent, there's no question about that. At the same time, you think about this. If I'm going around saying, this is not my country, the American flag does not represent me, it's not my flag, it represents imperialism, etc. That's the white folks' flag, this is the white folks' country, I'm not an American. Again, for the umpteenth time, that's music to the ears of these racist bastards who have always made the argument, this is a white man's country. And that is why, and I'm saying this and I wish folks would hear me. Somebody called up earlier talking about New York. These folks, and I'm saying this to these folks who, under the sound of my voice, if you are from the Caribbean, stop calling us Yankees. You need to kill that noise. Kill it. Black folks, black Americans, do not stand back and allow yourself to be disrespected. Because in the first place, a Yankee, if you go back and listen to old school calypso music, when they use the term Yankee, that was in reference to the white man. Okay? And not only that, Southern white folks would refer to their white brethren who was from the North as Yankees. They didn't refer to Midwesterners or West Coast white folks as Yankees, and they sure didn't refer to us, who might have been from the North, as Yankees. Not only that, when have we ever referred to ourselves as Yankees? We don't. So that's a slur right there.
I don't. You know what? I don't really care if nobody called me a Yankee though. Because when I was overseas, it was used to be American. They called the white people Yankee. They called everybody. I don't really. But here's one. I want to hit on a point you just made. So like you talked about like go back to Africa or whatever. Like I want to make a point that everybody needs to understand. Racist white folk have always told us to go back to Africa, as if I've ever been, my mama been, my grandma, but none of the people been, right? I want to make this point though. We did go back to Africa, except we went in our own minds. Like in our imaginary world, that's where we live. Like, so we did do exactly what white folk told us to do, what racists told us to do. When they said go back to Africa, we went. We just didn't go physically. We went in our imagination. Our imagination is always the year of return, and the whole world is Wakanda. So you started living in this delusion where you are in Africa. It's just not real. So, I just want everybody to think about that. Like, we did do what, as a group, not ADOS, we did do what they said do. Like, every day people go live and do whatever they do to make money and work. And then what they do is, in their minds, they live in Africa. They live in Wakanda. They have this imagined life in Ghana or somewhere. So we actually did do that. We just didn't do it in the physical world. We did go back to Africa, though. It lives in our imagination. But I'm gonna let you go, fam. I'm sorry.
No, that's a valid point. That's a good point right there. And the thing is, if this thing about Pan-Africanism wouldn't have been a problem if, it's one thing to embrace the motherland, but it's another thing to embrace the motherland and you do that at the expense of your place of birth. And the thing is, what the Pan-Africanists, I won't just say Pan-Africanists, but the ones in the conscious community, who, and I'm sure you remember this, like back in the 90s, you had the ones who called themselves Afrocentric, right? Mm-hmm. Walk around with the kufi and the African medallion and all that kind of stuff, burning incense and all of that, and talking about Hotep this and all of that. I mean, anybody who was around back in 30-something years ago would remember what I'm talking about. Well, the thing is, what many of us didn't realize, and I didn't realize this either, and that is that when they were doing that, they really had a negative outlook as it related to our American identity. They really wanted us to embrace our African heritage and dislike and develop a disdain for our ethnicity here in the United States. And so you said something earlier, I'm addressing it and then I'm going to end it. That you don't get to come here and tell us, about the flag and all that kind of stuff. Let's be clear. Those of the Afrocentric variety and those of the conscious community, because they're not always the same. They're similar, but not always the same. They're the ones who were talking that way in the presence of or directly to the black foreigners. Because when that started happening, that's when you started having, why you wearing this American flag? This is not your country. This is not. They got that from those self-hating black folks who had roots here, and Elijah Muhammad and folks of that ilk. Let's think about so-called American Negro. That's his language. So-called. When you say something so-called, that means it ain't the real thing. So he tried to disabuse us of our American identity. Not just him, but others of that ilk. Now let that one marinate.
All right. Yeah, we're gonna let that marinate. Yeah, but it's
okay.
I pointed out something somebody else said a while ago that had to do with, and I ain't gonna say it here. I'll put it up again on Twitter at some point. But yeah, a lot of people have anchored us in not being American, in this Africans in America stuff, and we're not. It's not to say that we don't have descent. Or we have European descent too. Am I European? Right? And well, you bet you light skin. No, most ADOS have something. Have around 20. Some have more, some have less. Do you go and claim Europe? No, you're not from Europe. Just like we're not from Africa. We're American. Like, it shouldn't be so complicated. So, and it's not complicated for other people. Nobody else does that.
It's the same thing with the Olympics. You notice how there were people who were kind of indifferent when it came to our black athletes in the Olympics. For God's sakes, please let us support our black athletes in the Olympics. I mean, people didn't used to do that before, but they do now because they put that stuff on the atmosphere. But thank God that y'all is pushing things in a different direction in terms of ADO say, look, no, we are Americans, and because you wave the American flag and acknowledge it does not somehow mean that you are in concert with imperialism. That's the part.
Hold on. Here's the thing. Here's the other part of it. If a person from a corrupt African nation puts that flag in their bio, does that mean they are in league with the corruption in their country? No.
Right,
Like,
right,
it's only
right.
with us that people say, oh my God, you're an imperialist. It is a given in other countries, no matter who the leader of the country is, no matter what that country has done, that if you put that flag in your bio, it's just you expressing it's where you're from, and you probably have an appreciation for a culture and a history that doesn't include all the awful things that your country did, unless you were a part of it. It's only when we do it that people say, oh my God, you were in league in oppression, and they do it to us even though we are the most oppressed in the country. So how in the world would we be a league with oppression when we are the most oppressed? People say the dumbest stuff to us, and we just let it fly. And that's the problem. Fight back. But I appreciate you, fam.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for that. Calling in. I appreciate you. You have a good one.
You too.
All right, now. Bye-bye. Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. I'm going now to 954. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hey, what's going on, Yvette? This is Jason from Miami.
Hey, what's going on, Jace? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I wasn't going to kind of chime in too much, but what I am starting to notice is, unfortunately, too many ADOS people, the discussion is becoming more a way to scapegoat or obfuscate responsibility onto a black immigrant population that might be 15% of the population, of the black population, as opposed to taking accountability or onus, saying, so the conversation which you've started, and I remember speaking with you previously about maybe a year ago, and you said the one thing that you probably would regret is if you thought that what you've done would have been bastardized to the way it has been, you would have changed the way you went. What I've noticed over the last few months, last year, is a lot of people basically piggybacking off of what you guys have done and bastardizing it to the point of making it like a xenophobic type movement as a way to scapegoat, as opposed to taking accountability. So the movement becomes, it's somebody else's fault, as opposed to saying, you can change this at the drop of a dime. It's not about black immigrants at all, or a way to say, well, these people are doing this, these people are doing that. It's, in my opinion, it's too late, because America is no longer a sovereign nation. America is a bunch of nations inside of one nation. So to say that you're American and you're not American, who's American, who's not, it's irrelevant at this point, because it's becoming now just a bunch of nations in one. And birthright citizenship says who's American, who's not. So maybe the point being now should be, instead of saying American, not American, it's more or less to say contributions to the country and non-contributions. You understand what I'm saying or no?
Yeah, I do, but here's what I would say. I don't think, I think we're on our way out of the bastardization of the movement, right? I think everything has a time. And one of the things you just have to do is endure the foolishness, because foolishness doesn't last. It doesn't have the stuff to last. And so I am sort of seeing that kind of is not having the same steam that it once had. And I think you have to be very careful in terms of defining two things: who has control of the movement and who has control of the content or the foolishness. Whenever you do anything, right? If that thing that you do is successful, people are gonna try to copy it, right? And it's aggravating and it's frustrating, because this thing right here is so serious. So it frustrates the heck out of you to see people do that in real time. But you have to understand that if you do something, right? I don't believe imitation is the best form of flattery. I don't like it. To me, it's theft in this place, especially in this space, right? Even if you go and try to write a book like somebody else, people will say, that's kind of like the plot of whatever, but you tried it. But we still see it happening. I say that to say that I think we're emerging out of that. I've even seen, because there are a bunch of people who've been doing it. It's not just the one person that we talk about a lot, but I've even seen those people just kind of, I don't know how to say it, but I've seen them kind of come out of that, right? In a sense of, because they don't have the intellectual kind of muscularity to remain in this space for long. And then, so I think a bunch of people try to imitate something that couldn't be imitated. and they couldn't move into a political space with it, and that's where this thing is going, into a political space. Regarding us being a bunch of different states, I mean, I think that's an interesting theory, but I think inside, even though we kind of move as factions in terms of how we feel and how we think, and one of the problems I do believe that America has is that there's a problem in terms of cohesion of culture, right? In the sense of like who I am as a Southerner is very different than who somebody is as a Midwesterner or a Northerner, and there are I'm sure there are other differences too. I think California is its own place. I think Florida is its own place. So I understand what you're saying. And America is a huge country, so I definitely understand what you're saying. But I still think in terms of this whole country, right, it doesn't exist without slavery. And so I think if you're trying to advance, like people are having trouble understanding where we are now. Like I think if you're trying to advance beyond that, you're going to have a serious problem, because we have people who still haven't caught up to this is where they are and this is what they're saying. So I would still kind of stay there, because I don't think people can move past America to we're not America. No, you're gonna have to stay like this is the country that these people built. You're gonna have to stay there.
I would agree with you on that. I would think, just to push back maybe slightly in regards to it, there are factions of Florida, for instance, where a person doesn't have to speak a lick of English. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a perfect example. You can put a whatever flag you want. So I guess I could be Egyptian American, I can be Cuban American, I can be whatever I want. I can have the Honduran flag or the boxing gloves that people put on their rearview mirror. I can be whatever the nation of origin, and then if you check me on it, well, I was born here, so I'm just as American as you. What I'm saying is post the Immigration Act, there's less of a onus on people assimilating into what America is, and you can be whatever you want to be, depending on what state you're in, and not speak a lick of English, and still be just as American as everybody else. So there's less of an onus on assimilation, as opposed to just being, depending on where you're at, you can go to little Haiti, little Cuba, little China, little whatever, and I can still have my cultural aspect, be whatever I want, and still just be just as American, everything as you.
I agree. I agree, and that's a problem, and that doesn't even exist in a lot of places in the world, right? You can come here, but culturally, it's a given that like you're not just as American. Yeah. It does. I agree with you. It doesn't make any sense. Like there was something. I remember Barbara Jordan when she was talking. She talked about assimilation. I can't remember, but she had a name for it, like the need to assimilate into the culture. And now the thing that's encouraged is that you can have different kind of pockets. Well, the problem is it creates what you're talking about. It creates like these little factions and these little places within places that aren't really American. And then people say, well, America is an idea. Well, then it makes it very difficult to be. Yeah, like it's not. It doesn't have any cultural thing. It makes it very difficult to be anchored in an idea with anybody. America is based on the idea of freedom. Well, what the hell? Like, what does that even mean, right? And it's just a way to kind of make sure that nobody has ownership over, like, and nobody can claim America in any kind of significant way. So that means that you're just as American if you just got here, and I'm just as American if I've been here since we were here before America was a country, right? So it's just like, so you get to be just as American. It's just like, no, and if you push back against that, it's like, oh, you're xenophobic. Well, Lord have mercy.
Well, I'll leave you with this, and I will say this, is that there's also a reluctance, and that's my biggest thing, trying to look for solutions. I think there's more of a reluctance, and maybe this is a Patreon kind of more or less conversation, but I think there's more of a reluctance for ADOS people to identify as ADOS and just be more black, or what's called flat black, thinking that because you were black for centuries before mass immigration, as though it is okay to still identify as black, as opposed to the only solution being stepping out of the title of blackness, which is just a racial category or social construct, and then saying, yes, I can be black, but I choose to identify as something else. There's no way of, I guess, recapturing the word black as an identifier, no matter what you want to think.
No.
And I think there's a reluctance to try to relinquish that.
We had a whole period of I'm black and I'm proud, right? And there's no way people don't want to relinquish that. People don't want to think of it's antiquated. Like it doesn't make sense. Like post the Immigration Act of 1965, and then there was another Immigration Act. It doesn't make any sense. It's an antiquated term, and if you use it, you use it as an ADOS person. You use it to your detriment. If other people use it while ADOS use it, they use it to their benefit. And so you have to understand who benefits from these terminologies as well, and we don't. And so we have to move beyond it, but we have an emotional attachment to it because people had us running around saying I'm black and I'm proud. And I understand why that happened, but sometimes you have to realize that was okay for right there, for where you were right there. It's not okay for right now. And it doesn't mean the people who had you saying it were bad and they were doing the best they could in the moment that they were there, but like we that doesn't fit for this moment, and people have to be willing to do that. But that's one of the things we're very unwilling to do. We don't like to walk away from bad ideas or people who had bad ideas. Like a good idea in 1965 is probably a bad idea in 2024. Some of them transcend time. Like a brilliant idea may transcend time, but some ideas were great then. Given the fact before globalism, before some ideas, they're not a good fit now. And what I find is that a lot of people just want to tell me and recite history to me as opposed to create the future. So if your thing you want to do is recite history and you don't want to create the future, if your thing is regurgitation and not creation, then we have a problem.
Yeah, I think, and I try to kind of tell people that as nice as possible. I don't think it catches because of the fact that what ends up happening is because you come from such a resilient group, there is no defeat. There is no we can do anything. We fought through slavery. We were resilient through slavery. We're resilient through this. We're not giving up blackness. There is no defeat. As opposed to just kind of looking at it saying it's not a defeat, it's just maybe a way to pivot.
And it's not even.
There's no limitation.
No. It's not even that. It's the truest form of who we are, right? Like what you should have is as terms go along. As anything goes along, like whether it's a distillation, it's a crystallization. Like you're doing something, you realize this is the perfect form of like whatever you're doing, whatever you're creating, or whatever you like. You may have this whole heap of clay that you're carving, and you carve it all the way down. And you at first you get somebody that's a cute person I've got. And I don't know what's a man or woman. Then you get down, okay, that's a man. Okay, that's one. And then you carve him to perfection. You're like, that's the perfect distillation. That's what it is. That thing right there is what we are. And so what I view it is a perfect distillation, a crystallization of who we are. And it encompasses everything. We're American. We're descendants of an institution that defined our history in this country, right? And so, and that history is bigger than blackness, right? So, if he's black and you black, what separates you two? There has to be something, and this is the perfect distillation and crystallization and definition of who and what we are. So that's the way I see it. And everybody has to just kind of come to terms with it. So.
I'm going to let you go with that.
I appreciate you, fam.
I'll leave you with this. I think that it's very selfish of people that want to disassociate themselves with the term of slavery in their identifier, but want to benefit from slavery when it comes to reparations. And I think that's insane. But thank you. Good conversation.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't want to be associated with slavery, but you want to check, right? Like if you don't want to be associated with it, can I keep your portion? Because I can do something with that. I can do so. Can I keep your portion? Oh no, I deserve that, but I just don't want. No, that is what reparations is for: slavery and an accrued disadvantage. But that's the thing. It's anchored in slavery. Like reparations is anchored in slavery. Make no mistake. But you don't want any kind of association with it because it kind of pulls down your self-esteem or something. You just wait. Oh well, whatever. I'm going now to 347. What's going on?
Hey, yeah, I'm sorry about that. Is that
no problem? What's going on? How you doing?
Yeah. I'm not. At the end of the day, Cam said what Cam said, and the problem is not what Cam said. It's the energy around what he said. That's that paternalism that you keep talking about. Anytime Black Americans talk about their identity and their status, here comes that post Reconstruction thing. All Black men is gonna do is drink whiskey and be degenerate. That doesn't make sense. You can't now say that we don't have a voice. Mm-hmm. We are who we are. if we change the conversation and Mason Betha said something, if he said, I'm from Martinique or Haiti or wherever he's from, I don't think it would have been that much pushback. It would have been the elevation of his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, power to that. But it wasn't me. It was Cam. Cam said that. Cam said, like, he said his lived experience. That's his lived experience. Who are you to disqualify that? The energy surrounding Cam was so goddamn negative. It was, how can you, Lamont Hill jumped out the window and respectfully babbled, and he said, yeah, well, we're rooted in here, but what if Cam got 16 generations here? What if Cam got a whole lineage here? What if Cam came from Civil War, the Revolutionary? What if Cam had all that experience? No, I think it's very disingenuous to dismiss people. That paternalism word keeps rumming my head. It's like, why would you say that to that man? Do you understand his lived experience? Do you understand his ancestors? Do you understand what his mother said to him? Do you understand what he ate for Christmas? Do you know that man? This is wrong. It bothers me when people don't let Black Americans recognize the experience. There's power in that. And I think that's the grift.
No, I think, and what's the need to check? Like, I'm not saying, like, I'm not saying I didn't watch the whole episode. I watched a clip. So I'm not saying that, like, and I live in a world where I don't expect anybody to say anything perfect. Lord knows. But I'm just like, why is it always checked? Like, we're the majority in this country, and if we say, hey, don't call me that, right? Like, oh, well, why? Well, you should. It's just like I said, don't call me that. I told you what my name was. It's just like me going outside and say, hey, my name's Yvette. Happy to meet you. Your name is Judy. Who are you to tell me my name is Judy? Like, if I want to identify, I want to identify. Like, who are you to tell me that's not the right thing to do? Especially when it's the most common sense thing in the world. Go ahead, fam.
Yvette, they don't do that. They don't do that to nobody but us, right? During Reconstruction, who was saying that we was going to drink whiskey? Was those the WASP, or what is the newly arrived Southern Europeans? Who was saying that rhetoric, right? It's an opportunity. It's an opportunist mentality, and I'm leading into this thing. I want to know your thoughts. Are those globalists? Are those people that try to take away from our birthright, our land rights? Like, we were 80% of the artisans and the mechanics and everything else prior to the Civil War. It went down they took our identity, not only our identity but our rights. So there's something to that disparaging our just recognizing who we are. There's something to this thing that you're talking about, and there's history to that. So to not let Cam say that, I think it's more of the same. Because if he was he has a voice. If he was push that voice and people recognize, I am a Black American. And people stand on that, I need reparations. Then what's going to happen? A lot of people is not going to get on his back. Mm-hmm. I think this is a theft. It's my personal opinion.
All right, I appreciate you, fam. Now, I understand. I just don't understand how you get checked so much in your own country. Like, at a certain point, if you get checked like this in your country, you got to ask yourself, like, what's going on? Like, what happened? What's wrong with me? Like, what's that I get checked like this in my own country? There are people who came here far later than we did, don't get checked this way. Right? And you have to ask yourself, and you go, I don't be no, they'll be like you talk about the whiskey, they'll be like, I don't drink no. It's just like, no, let's not talk about who's gonna do that. Let's talk about why you would drive, let's talk about why people are driven to do certain things. Let's talk about how the people who did a lot of that stuff had a lot of stuff stolen from them. And so they drowned their sorrows somewhere. Like, we don't want to talk about that, and we're talking about you would drive somebody crazy and be like, see? They crazy. It's just like you don't want to talk about what led up to that. Because you have people who fought. And by the time they caved. And life can break people. And we don't talk about what led up to being broke, like being the broken person. But I'll let you finish, fam, and then I'll try to go to another call.
I mean, essentially that's it. I mean, you set the stage. We did the information. We did the From Here to Equality. We did the Black, not only Black Tax, that's another book that you should read, but the Mercers and all the other people, we got the information. So the watershed is perpetual. Now people's coming in we recognize that so many harm people. But, like, we know the facts. We know what's going on. This is death. Point blank, period. They robbed us, benign neglect, just exclusion. All of the money. You know what the boomers about to transfer to these white people? It's not only these Anglo-Saxons. A bunch of these new arriving immigrants about to get a serious wealth transfer. So we on board, we activated, and we'll watch it. But anybody that comes out, I'm glad Cam did that. I'm glad he said that. There's a whole new group of people that need a watershed with us and watch what's going on. So respect you, Yvette. Keep doing what you're doing.
Appreciate you. Thank you, fam. You have a good one. Yeah, that's crazy. I'm gonna go to the next caller really quickly. 413, what's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Hi, this is Candace from Springfield, Mass.
Hey.
I've been listening to you for now, I guess about 6 years.
Okay.
I can't hear you.
I'm not talking.
Okay. But, I live in what I call Spanish land. And they've almost taken all the jobs away from our kids that are coming up. Because you have to know Spanish. Of course, the school system is better than most, but it's still the lowest school system in the state. And you have to learn Spanish to be competitive at these jobs. As far as being ADOS, I can't stress enough that I don't know how else we could get our reparations by stressing that we are ADOS. Everybody else claims they're Spanish or from Puerto Rico or they're whatever. And they never think about being American. I can trace my line all the way back from when I go to these, family reunions from the slavery days, and and we get together, we have a good time about it, but it stresses that we need reparations even more when I hear about all the lines we've gone through. Everybody in my family has been in the military, including me. And I don't know what more we got to do to be American. We're American to the highest. And our family is not rare. That's most of the ADOS family. So families. What more American can we be?
Can't be.
I can't be African. I can't be anything else. I don't know anybody in Africa. I can't. If I go there, what would I do? But that's all I had to say.
No, I agree with you. Appreciate you. I want to thank you for calling in. I think that's the. Yeah. Well, if I go to Africa, what would I do? Like, I think people be like you could say, well, I work a job in logistics. Okay, well, how does that translate? How does that? I had another thought. And where did that thought go? I had another thought. What's up? Now I don't remember. I don't remember now. All right, y'all. Let me go to 510. What's your name? Where you calling from? What's on your mind?
Oh, is that me?
Yep.
Hello?
Yep.
What? Okay. Got on the line. Hey, now, this is D. Janelle out of California.
What's going on, D. Janelle?
Hey, now, excellent show. Really unfortunate that, you had to go and reteach, and re-explain and break down, these concepts again that you and Antonio have harped on for so many years, but sometimes it's needed, and especially given Marc Lamont's comments, it's very much needed. And it reminded me of a dissertation that a sociologist wrote back in, American sociologist Everett Stonequest. He wrote a dissertation in which, back in 1930, in which he turned into a book in 1937 called The Marginal Man, A Study in Personality and Culture Conflict.
Oh.
And the dissertation and the book have the same title, The Marginal Man, A Study in Personality and Culture Conflict. And his inspiration for this work was when he studied at the Geneva School of International Studies, and specifically he said that he was inspired by lectures particularly given by Sir Frederick Lugard, who was a former governor of Nigeria, and then British representative on the Permanent Mandates Commission. And so he, so let me give a little bit more context. These lectures called attention to the ambiguous status and problematic role of the, quote, Europeanized Africans, end quote, who were unable to relate themselves successfully upon returning to their African homes. And so this was the majority of his inspiration for this paper. So I just wanted to read two excerpts from it.
Go ahead.
I don't want to go all the way deep into it, but it is very, very interesting. So excerpt 1. Among national minorities, Central Europe. National minorities within Europe have also exemplified the pattern sketched above. Assimilation tendencies with the dominant nationality followed by counter-identification with the original nationality. The former may have resulted from ambition and personal expediency, a method of avoiding discrimination. The latter occurred as the subject nationality showed signs of revival. Often this was connected with linguistic and cultural revivals. Later, a political form of nationalism developed. Historic achievements and roles were rediscovered and emphasized, and a collective pride developed to infuse individual pride and self-respect. Among racial minorities, the United States. The development of a kind of nationalism among the American Negroes illustrates the socio-psychological mechanism described above, but does not correspond culturally. The latter differs because of the loss of the African heritage in the course of removal to the United States. The birth of esprit de corps among American Negroes cannot take the form of a cultural revival, but must take the road of equality through integration. It is by demonstrating his ability as an American that the Negro proves his right to treatment as a first-class citizen. This means functioning in and through the white American culture. By changing a caste psychology into a nationality psychology, the American Negro strives to make the democratic theory work on his behalf. And I'll stop there. And I wanted to center those two excerpts because the information like this really shows me how much of anti-Negro activity, anti-Negro mechanisms, and how much of a team sport that was, and still is. Because remember, this was written in 1930, and so this is prior to some of the framework that Pan-Africans created and used. But at the same time, I can tell that in some of the things that I've read so far, I can tell that some of these things seem to be kind of piecemeal from this work over here, this work over here, this work over here, and then they
cobbled together
into right, into their framework of anti-Negro operations, if you will, and this is something that I notice now today, and why old talking points are being regurgitated, because that seems to be the only thing that they have, and that this type of loose leg scholarship, if you will, it shouldn't pass muster. It shouldn't be taken, seriously, and be able to be cited and actually declared, scholarship today. And so I think that's why they're, grasping at straws and and then of course I believe there's a concerted effort with those funders, if you will, that are in the shadows, those funders, to develop, new talking points and steal a little bit here, a little bit there, so it just makes enough sense. But to ease the conscious psyche and what's growing, the growing conscious psyche, and to ease that back into neutrality, because Pan-Africanism neutralized the American Negro political conscience. And now...
Say that one more time. Pan-Africanism did what? And they want to know what book that is again. But Pan-Africanism did what? It neutralized what?
Pan-Africanism neutralized the American Negro political consciousness.
Ooh-wee. That was a bar right there.
I think I got it from you.
Go me then.
But the title of the book, I'm sorry, The Marginal Man, A Study in Personality and Culture Conflict. Okay. By Everett B. Stonequist.
Oof. Sometimes, let me tell you, sometimes you got to go back and get these old books. These new people be, sometimes, like, you got to go look, if you want to look at some of the stuff that is really the foundation of some of that stuff, you got to go look at the old books. People wrote they told the truth. They didn't really care. I was reading some book the other day. It was Confederate wrote the book. He didn't care. He didn't care what you thought. He didn't care what you felt. Like, you got to just go read the truth. People ain't telling the truth. People just like, I haven't read nobody recently in terms of race who has said something different than everybody else been saying. Not at all. They just regurgitating and tweaking stuff. No, they used to go. So I understand going back, because, yeah. And there was people calling Pan-Africanism. I was reading some Pan-African literature. It was people calling Pan-Africanism nuts a long time ago. And now we just accept it like they didn't, like Pan-Africanism didn't have a slew of critics back in the day. Is that what we're gonna do? Woo.
Yeah, right. I can't remember the name of the account, but someone on Twitter had recently posted an article that spoke to the pushback from the Negro community at large about the term African American. And that there was pushback, but it was essentially ignored.
Yeah, that too. That was pushback too, but that was a huge pushback against this idea of Pan-Africanism. They would say there were people then saying the same thing we're saying now, that nothing connects these people. So what are you talking about? Like, that argument was made, and that was the right argument, and it was made then. I don't know how we got to this point to where it's just accepted. I really don't think it's widely accepted. I think other people are nice about it, but the only people who are invested psychologically in it are American Negroes. ADOS is invested. Anybody else invested in that stuff?
I agree. And that also goes to show you how powerful the propaganda machine is, and how much money and resources that they have to continue to stuff that stuff down our throat. And seemingly only down, Adolf's throat. No one else, seems to get this type of negative attention. Hey, if I can, there's another little part in which he mentions Booker T. Washington. Can I read that section?
Sure. We'll in there.
Maybe 40 seconds. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because this bothers me. I'm sorry. In the United States, the life and career of Booker T. Washington is a classic form of the intermediary racial roles required by public opinion in the South of his day. His famous Atlanta speech formula that, quote, in all things that are purely social, we can be as separate as the fingers, yet one as the hand in all things essential to mutual progress, end quote, made it possible for him to secure cooperation or co-operation from white Southerners for a program of Negro education and economic advance.
Yeah, the Atlanta Compromise.
Eventually, he expected political rights would be accorded to the Negro as Southern whites got over the old feeling of being pressured by outsiders. I'll stop there because
that was the Atlanta Compromise, and the thing is, Booker T. Washington was just wrong. He according to his word, he really believed that if we cast our buckets down, eventually white folk will come around. And they would prefer us to foreigners. It was just too much too quick or whatever. And so, like, that just never happened. Like, instead of coming around to, oh, the Negroes are good, and we've been around Negro for a long time, it was like, no, we gonna do some mob stuff, and we're gonna take your land, and we're gonna harass you, and we're gonna terrorize you. So no, but I appreciate it, fam. I appreciate you calling in. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Have a good one. Yeah, that was that Atlantic Compromise. It was some crazy stuff. Listen, fam, that's going to be all for the calls tonight. I apologize if I didn't get through to you. There's a lot of calls on deck, so if I didn't get to you, I'm sorry. Please, I apologize. We'll try to get to it. Next show. But yeah, that was, and I don't know what I really don't remember. What the lady what was the I know she said what she say? She lived in what did she say? She lived in Mexican land or something. Like, what did she say? Spanish land? I don't know. Good luck though. That's all I would say. Some of y'all gonna be listening. I'm just saying, cause y'all saw the thing. Let me move this. Y'all saw the thing Biden did that said talking about making it, we need to learn a different language. We need to be bilingual. It's just like people are like, yeah, we need to be bilingual. It's kind of like, no, dude, they're finding a way to put that. You got to put that on the application, right? And you're gonna be able to say, well, you're gonna have to say, I don't speak it. And then they're going to be like, well, that's a requirement to be here. Like, that's the bilingual push. You push, like, understand when somebody pushes something, understand what is pushing you in and out of it. What is a benefit to you in the labor market? Right? I can't help it. He said, you need to stop. I can't stop. I'm going to keep going. No. But like, what thing is good for you in the labor market and what thing is bad for you in the labor market? That's what you have to figure out. And it's not good for somebody else to add another disqualifier for you in the labor market. It's already hard enough. And, I don't know. Good luck. Because if we don't get this thing together, everybody's going to need it. I don't speak fluent Spanish. Anyway, fam, listen. Everybody got to stop doing this stuff. We got to stop having this thing where we all got to go back over the same stuff over and over and over again. It's just too much. That's all I'm trying to say. It's just too much. I don't begrudge anyone anything in terms of having their own ideas. But I tell you what I do. Sometimes I really feel like people's ideas don't make sense. Right? And if your ideas don't make sense, like, tell me what I'm supposed to do. Like, if you have an idea that doesn't make sense, it haven't made sense in a long time, and it certainly doesn't make sense for the people that it's supposed to make sense for. What is supposed to be my reaction to that? That's the question. What is supposed to be my reaction to something not making sense? So, listen, fam, like, this year is going to be, like I said, if you haven't gone to joinados.com, please go. I totally understand why some people are like, hey, I paid it. What's the thing? Let's get it. I get it. And we're building this thing with volunteers as best we can, as fast as we can. But, there are limitations. But like, you have to, it's how many opportunities are you going to have to be a part of building something that fixes you, right? Building something that fixes your family, that fixes your kids. So, we got to all build this thing together. It ain't just Yvette. It's just, and it ain't just Yvette now. We have people who are dedicated, but you can come too. Well, so please feel free. I encourage you to go to joinados.com. If you're wary about it, you can go ADOS, ADOSfoundation.org, and please check out what we stand for, because this is all about movement building, and this is what we're doing. And the Pan-African is gonna say the same stuff over and over and over again. If that's one thing they're going to do. They're going to make the same points. They're going to go back into some African history. They're going to tell you about the Pan-African Conference when everybody got together. Child, living in the past is their specialty. I don't even like to debate them because they make speeches. They speechify. They speechify about history. Do you know the year Martin and Malcolm went to the da-da-da-da, and then they met with the Asians and everybody, are you aware of that event? Are you aware? I am aware, but I don't want to talk about it because it don't matter in 2020. But anyway, fam, I'm going to let y'all go. We're about that time. It's about time for everybody to be getting in bed and that sort of thing. So I'll let everybody go. I will see you all next time. Please keep it easy breezy. Don't bother nobody. As usual, don't let nobody bother you. Please hit the like button on the way out. Please hit the subscribe if you have not subscribed, even if you don't like me or don't like what I stand for. Call in next time. Feel free. And I'll talk to y'all. If you're on Patreon, I'll see you tomorrow. If not, I'll see you in a week. All right? Bye, everybody.